Hey everyone, Mr. Dennis here. Just a quick video to explain subject changes. Hopefully by doing so, it will make the process easier for everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain it by focusing on the year 10 perspective, but hopefully the explanation will sort of make sense to students from year 11 and year 12 as well. So a few rules to be clear about before we begin. The first rule is that all students must do one subject per column. That'll be clearer in a second. Year 10 students must do one science, one maths, and one English. And year 11 and 12 students must do one English, although you must be really sure that you don't need a maths for a future pathway if you decide not to do one. So that first rule that I said everybody has to do one subject per column, this is what I'm talking about. So you're going to see this in Discovery today. This is one side of the subject change request form, and basically it just shows you all of the subjects available at all year levels. Now, if you look at year 10, there are a few more columns than the other year levels, and that's because of the electives. Now, you must make sure in year 10 that you have one subject in each column. There can't be any blank spaces, and you can't have two in the same column because you can't be in two places at the same time. This is important to keep in the forefront of your mind because when you do your subject change request, you're going to need to make sure you follow that rule and have one subject in each column. If you're a student doing a year 11 subject in year 10, the same rule still applies, and I'll explain that with an example. So let's move on. Now, there is a process that you're going to need to go through if you want to make a subject change. Most of you won't want to make a subject change, and that's why there's a dotted line here, because the only thing you're going to need to do today when you get your subjects in Discovery is decode your subjects. Your subject's going to come to you in code form, and you're going to need to look at the reference guide on the reverse side of the sheet that you get to decode what those mean, so you can be really clear about what you have. Most of you are going to see it and you're going to go, awesome, really happy, big tick, don't need to do anything else. A few of you will want to make subject changes, and that's what this line is for, and you'll need to go through steps 2 to 6, which I'm going to explain to you now. So let's use this student as an example. Ash Bharti receives this list of subjects in Discovery today, and as you can see, some of the codes are not super clear. It's kind of obvious here that she's got English, but the others are not clear. So she's going to go through the first step and she's going to decode the subjects. She looks at the sheet and it has all the codes on the reverse side of the sheet listed with the plain English translation next to it. And this is what she comes out with. She's got CE, which is ceramics. She's got WW, which is design technology. Apologies for the typo. But you can see that it's now really obvious to Ash exactly what her subjects are next year, but she still wants to make a change. So the next thing she has to do is highlight the subjects on the front of the subject change request form, which she does, and it looks like this. Now, Ash is interested in doing history, so she needs to work out if that change is possible and highlight the change on the form. So, taking a pencil, she highlights all the places that she can see history running. And she does it in pencil because she doesn't want to do anything too permanent because she's got a decision to make. She's basically got to work out which subject does she want to drop by taking on history. If she does history here, she'll lose wood. Here, she'll lose art. Here, she'll lose music. And here, she'll lose science. So she needs to do a science, so she can't put it in there. So it leaves music, art, and wood. Now, she's a pretty accomplished musician. She's confident that she'll continue music this year outside of school and be able to pick it up at VCE. So she thinks, I'm happy to let music go for this year, and I'd like to try history because I've never done it before. So she rubs out the temporary markings she put here, here, and here, and she puts a nice obvious highlighter of history here, and she puts a cross through year 10 music there. So she's made it really clear to me visually what it is she's trying to move into and out of. She then needs to fill in the rest of the change form and write her reason on it and submit it to the senior school by the due date. And you can see that here. So this is what the actual form looks like. So you can see the grid here, and Ash has done a great job of highlighting visually what she wants to change out of and into. She writes her name and her form. She's in 9B. This is what she's thinking about for next year. And she's written out of music into history and her reason here. So she's written, I'd like to experience history and see if I might like to do it for VCE. I do a lot of music outside of school, so I'm confident that I can pick music up at VCE without doing it in year 10. She checks the due date on the form and she makes sure she's handed it into the senior school before then. Now, before we finish up, I'll just run through another example looking at the grid, but this time focusing on Ben Smith, who has a year 11 subject, which I know is the case for some students, which is why he's got a box highlighted up here. Now, Ben is interested in doing maths methods, and he highlights it on the grid just temporarily, like Ash did, to work out if it's possible, and realizes it runs here where he's got basketball and here where he's got biology. Now, he's 100% sure he doesn't want to lose basketball, and he'd like to keep biology if possible. So he looks around and he realizes that biology also runs here. So that is an option. And what that will mean is if he decides to move biology here, that he'll lose what runs here, and that's law and art. And he's happy to do that. He doesn't mind losing law and art if he gets to keep basketball and biology. So he fills in the form accordingly. He gets rid of this temporary marking of maths, and he puts maths methods here, crosses out biology, highlights biology here, and crosses out law and art here, so he can make that change. So I just wanted to run through that example with you. I know it's a little bit more complicated, but it does illustrate that if you look around at where subjects are running in different spaces, you can shift things a bit to get something that works well for you. Now, please be aware that this is a request. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get your request. There are a few reasons why you wouldn't. There may be no space in a subject. It might be full. There might be a clash. So despite your best efforts, you may have not worked out exactly correctly whether it's possible or not. And when I look at it, I realize it's not possible. And it may be that students ahead of you have made the similar request and filled any few remaining spaces that there were in the subject. So this is the process again. Hopefully this has made sense to you. It's going to be online indefinitely, so you can watch it over as many times as you need to. And yeah, you can sit down with your family and they can watch it with you and help you sort of make sense of it all. This is really just to ensure that you don't waste your time putting in a subject change that is not possible, which is sometimes an issue. So yeah, if you've got any questions after watching the video a few times, don't hesitate to come in and have a chat with me in the senior centre. Awesome. Thanks a lot.